Hi. Hi, this is Dr. Tanya English, the Soul Chiropractor, and I'm here with Elizabeth Carney, a transformational coach, natural healer, business mentor, and advisor. She's been called the Soul Fixer. See, we've got a lot in common. Elizabeth uses a holistic approach to create the unique changes required by each individual. Clients experience transformation, releasing the past, rebooting and rebuilding an authentic life on their terms. Sound familiar, everybody? Yep, that's what we do. In 2020, Elizabeth moved to Italy to restore a wonderful old house to its former glory. The house is majestically perched on a ridge in the midst of local vineyards and olive groves with breathtaking mountain views and the Adriatic just around the corner. Oh, that sounds so great. Elizabeth, I just think about that and I'm like, there, yeah. So thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And
Yeah.
that view from the ridge, like if you're having a down day, all you have to do is poke your head out the door and look over there, and it's just now everything's
Yeah.
all right in my
That's
world.
beautiful. Oh, I'd love to see pictures. I have to go on your site and check it out if there's any pictures there. Yeah. So you've been in the international corporate background, but you've also been studying natural healing, energy healing, sound modalities, vibrational sound therapy, Reiki, Rahani. I want to hear about that because I've never heard of that before. Shamanic healing and essential oils. And I want you to talk about, first of all, your book, Totally Real. Can you show everybody the cover of your book? It's behind her there on the shelf, but up close and
Yeah,
personal, here it is. Totally
here it
Real.
is. Here it is. Yeah,
And this is a
totally real.
blueprint.
Yeah,
Blueprint.
a blueprint to reboot your life. And people might be thinking, what on earth is that all about? Well, my background in corporate is all about, amongst other things, improving business processes. So, if you know what a Six Sigma black belt is, I was one of those. I went around the world and I helped different teams in different companies of the parent company to improve their business processes. And when I went into working for myself and consulting and coaching with small business owners, I realized I was doing more coaching. And then I realized what I'm actually doing is adapting the tools and techniques from business process improvement. And so I've now created this unique system. Nobody else is doing it. I introduce it in my book, and this is the Life Reboot Protocol. But essentially, it is based on the tools and techniques of improving business processes. Because
Mhm.
after all, life is a process. And hey, if there's somebody out there who says my life doesn't need improving, I'll be like, "Oh, you really? Everything's perfect in your world." Well, I guess if it is, fabulous. Let us into your secrets. But
Yeah.
most people I know need a little bit of help to fix things.
Well, even elite athletes, have a coach. So it's not just for people who are trying to get to a certain level. It's for people who want to stay at the level that they're in and are enjoying their life. So what brought you to this from the business side? What was it in your life that spurred you forward into that work?
Well, it was partly, lots of changes. Divorce, my dad died. My husband left, and then the job that I loved, I ended up with a new director who wanted to bring somebody else in. So it's like your services are dispensed with, which was very unusual for that company. I loved them. So then I ended up thinking, right,
Mhm.
nobody's going to do this to me again. Nobody is going to make me less than. Nobody's going to take my voice away. Nobody's going to take my power. I am not going to let anybody bully me again because there was a bit of bullying in that background too. I'm like, no. So I'm going to set up my own business. So my business was founded in 2011 and it's called Peak Focus. And originally it was about taking your business to new heights. And now really it's about taking you and your business to new heights because that's my umbrella company.
Yeah.
And
You are your business. And so if you're
yeah,
working on your business, you're working on yourself. Yeah. Wonderful.
and that is the case when you're working with, you know, owners of small businesses. I was going to say small business owners, but that, you know,
That makes some
implies that they're all vertically challenged. They're owners of small businesses. And I found I wasn't just helping them sort their business processes out. I'm starting to help them sort their life out, because they're like, well, what about this? Can you help me with this? What and that is how the processes kind of merged. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm like, I'm actually using the same tools with a bit of tweaking. And then I'm like, I need to look at this a bit further. And, you know, I started working with women who had been through similar things to me.
Right.
Because when I was researching the book and I'm talking to people about it,
Mhm.
woman after woman said to me, "You're telling my story."
Yep.
And I thought, this is crazy. What is it that happens when women get to 45 or 50 that everybody goes, right, we're done with you? Husband's done with you, the business, the work's done with you. And then you lose your parents at the time when you really need them, when other stuff is going on. And your kids go, right, we're off now. And they leave. And suddenly, what happens to woman after woman is
Yep.
that, having put everybody else first for years and years and years, put themselves last, done everything for everybody, suddenly everybody's swanned off into the sunset, and they're like, oh, well, now what do I do? Who am I? What do I want? And
Exactly.
they just don't know how to take that first step forward, because they've always been at the bottom of their pile.
Yeah,
You
and I
know,
think this is a endemic to the population, is that we don't honor ourselves throughout our life. We suddenly hit this wall and we're like, "Oh my God, what happened?" Because everything's been about everybody else. That's not healthy either. So what happens is we have these situations where people don't know what they're doing from one day to the next, and then menopause hits. So
yeah,
you have all of that, and then your body completely metamorphosizes into something else. And so you're like, well, now I don't even have control or understanding of what my body's doing. So that's where the healing really makes a difference for people too, I think. I mean, we're working with very similar populations. It's about people who are dealing with loss, and maybe it's over generations of time that they're dealing with this. And nobody's ever shown them that it's okay to heal and how to take your power back, because you really need it for healing. You need to have your power. And
yeah.
it's wonderful to be able to um, see that other people are doing this too. There's a lot of people that are doing what we're doing, because it's important for us to recognize that we haven't claimed our power. So I even have a class that I teach called Claim Your Power. And I know that you're doing likewise. Tell me more about um, what your clients receive when they're working with you.
Okay, so there is the the framework, the life reboot protocol, which is a 6-step process that takes them from identifying exactly what the heck is going on, like how, you know, what is the real problem, what's underneath it, and how bad is it, you know, like what's it costing you, how much time is it taking, what's it doing to your quality of life, you
Mhm.
know. And so that's the first piece, you know, because if you don't really know where you're at, it's very, very difficult to move forward and to create something that works, because you'll constantly be pulled back. The next step is about energy and evaluating the energy and who is in there in your world that is creating or contributing towards the issues that you have. You
Mhm.
know, the energy vampires, for example, do you want them up there?
Yep.
Do you want to give these people your time or not? And this is all about evaluating what the whys and the whats of what's happened, looking at the patterns, your patterns, you know, the patterns in the process of your life that perhaps,
Mhm.
you know, you don't have any time and you don't want to um You don't have time for the things that you want to do or the people that you want to be with because you're tied up with everything else. So then when you have evaluated what's going on, you know what's in the gap then between like really where you want to go, and it's time to establish exactly what you do want. And the problem I see quite often is people like focus on the big vision, and they'll do a vision board, and I love vision boards, but it's not the only thing. And so many people don't do vision boards right anyway, but that's probably another topic. But I will work on the big picture, blue sky thinking, vision boards, and I'll get down to the minutiae as well. What is practical and possible right now? And so when you know what's practical and possible, you can actually come up with a goal. And I know that's not really a word that people associate with life, but hey, where do you want to go? What experiences do you want to have? How do you need to grow? And then, another piece of what contributions you want to need give back. And that, what's your main goal to focus on right now to fix the most critical problem? So when you know that, the next piece is, optimizing that goal into more bite-sized chunks, objectives in the different areas that you touch on. So the objectives, if you like, are the stepping stones to the overall goal. And still, that's not enough. The next piece is about organizing a plan. All right, because you fail to plan, you plan to fail. We've all heard it. How many people do you know that actually have a plan for their life? And guess what? Things cannot go according to plan if you don't have a plan in the first place. So
Right.
it's about,
Yeah, you
what
can't take a
actions.
detour if you don't have a direction that you're going.
Exactly. And so it's like, well, what exactly do I need to do to achieve these objectives, to to get to this goal, to close the gap, to solve my problem? And of
Yeah,
course, it's then there's one other piece in my protocol, which is transformation. And that is about making sure it sticks, because
yes.
it's not one and done. The world comes and bites us in the bum again. Things happen, we get more challenges. And
Yep.
that's when people give up and go, all right, I tried that, it didn't work. So this is all about having a
Yeah.
set of strategies in place. So when it all goes wrong again, instead of closing down and giving up, you know exactly what to do to keep going, to keep the changes in place. And that's
Yeah,
how you get true transformation.
because consistency is key. I mean, I often say this, if you're gonna lose weight, you don't go to the gym one time and go, "Well, there you go, it didn't work."
Yeah.
You have to keep going, and you have to build yourself up enough to make yourself do that. Like, sometimes it's not your favorite thing to do. So, we were just talking about this because you just had a big challenge with this, with the tech part of it, and what did you tell yourself when all of that was kinda going south on you? How did you bring
Oh, the
yourself
tech
back
part.
to
Yeah, when I got bots attacking my website, I had my emails, I lost control of my email. I actually lost control of my website for a while.
oh,
And what is this telling me? And part of it was what else needs to shift in my life. And always when things like that happen, when you go down a path that you're not anticipating, quite often it's like um, it's a signal, if you like, that
mhm,
something needs to shift, something needs to go, something needs to be decluttered. And
that's it,
interestingly,
yeah,
interestingly, people declutter as well. And some of them you might have to have,
yeah,
conscious conversations with. Others declutter themselves. And I had that experience this week as well, which was quite fascinating. And I'll share just very briefly that I posted something the other day, essentially wishing people joy and laughter in their lives. And
mhm,
I posted a new great review that somebody posted about my book. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But somebody took exception to both of these posts. And the
hmm,
upshot is they have decided to remove themselves from my social medias, and essentially from my life. This isn't a keyboard warrior. This is something I actually know.
Oh dear.
So I find it quite fascinating. And you know,
Oh,
what I take from that is, well, they're obviously not meant to be here right now because they're not on the same platform as me. Maybe they're not on the, you know, there's a lot of negative vibes around there. I don't need negativity in my life. I don't need that kind of stuff. I don't wish her any ill, nothing. And you know, I'm not going to like be nasty if I see her, but I'm like, it's quite, I just find it quite fascinating
yes.
that this happened at this particular moment in time. And
Wishing people well. I'm done with you. Okay.
yeah, well, the kind of message was, I sorted my life out years ago, so I don't need this. Thank you very much. And then the next message, because it went into DMs,
Oh
was,
dear.
um, your book and your posts and everything have brought up um, all of these old scars. And I'm
And
like,
isn't
oh,
that
right. So
that's
you're sorted, right?
this is if it's bringing up old stuff, that means it needs to be worked on. When we talk about this with people, especially if they've done work before and they're like, I thought I took care of this. It's not one and done. It's not even 12 and done. It's the rest of your life. You're like I say, life is like a spiral. You think you've come around to the same place again. You haven't. It might be the similar issue from the situation that happened, but you're in a different place now. And so you can, yesterday I got triggered and I was like, oh, this is weird. I'm having these thoughts and I'm watching myself have these thoughts because we're like scientists on ourselves doing
Yeah.
healing. And I'm thinking, this is weird. How come that triggered me so hard? And I think it's because I've been doing a lot of healing. I just sat through and helped run a training for energy scanning, which is the way I bring people into my business. When they want to work with me, we do an intuitive energy scan first. So I was doing 2 days of that.
Wow.
And then this person said something and I went, it's sort of like, what? And I thought, how interesting that this is happening right here. I must be cleaning some more out. And talking to a couple of people that are trusted advisors to me, we all agreed, yeah, you've been doing healing for 2 full days. You've been open for 2 full days. You haven't really, shut yourself down or anything. You're still open and somebody's going to touch that little wound and you go, oh, that's bringing up a whole bunch of stuff. Instead of saying, well, I'm not going to work with that person anymore, I'm saying, how interesting.
Yeah.
Let me see what that's about. That's the difference between somebody who wants to heal and somebody who is maybe not ready to heal. So
Oh,
not everybody is our client.
yeah. Yeah. And I notice the more healing that I do, the more stuff, you know, sometimes comes through that I need to
Yeah,
address. And you know, we know when we're healing, we get healing too. And
absolutely.
it's quite refreshing, I think, and that
Yeah.
that we are open to it. But I am very conscious of um closing the bubble, if you like, so that I'm not wide open, because I've had some interesting experiences over the years, especially being in crowded spaces and stuff. If you're open and you other people's
Yeah,
energy,
yeah, I don't really like my husband is like, "Let's go to a concert," and I'm like, no." I mean,
too
it's
many
fine if I
people.
have a seat and I can sit and I can watch, but being in like a general admission where everybody's standing around, oh, that's not good for me. Um, it's interesting when you find out what your boundaries are, why you have those boundaries, and is it something that's okay for you to say, no, I'm not going to put myself in that position, or and have people maybe not be too happy with you because of that. Is that okay for you to do? How do you make it okay for you to say no, right? That's pushing a boundary for me and I'm not ready to do that. And
Yeah,
when is it okay to you for you to like push that boundary and say, okay, let me try it and see how it feels now because I'm different than I was then. So
yeah,
it's great to have somebody like you, standing there and holding space for that transformation to happen. That's what we really like to do as healers, is help somebody move through their transformation without having the breakdown to have the breakthrough. That's, yeah, that
Absolutely. And I believe also the more connections we make in this healing space with each other, the more powerful the whole system of healing becomes. And and
exactly.
and one thing that I have realized, having studied the number of modalities that I've studied, I've been through aromatherapy. I
Mhm.
can do full body aromatherapy massage. I've studied
Mm.
essential oils for like I've got 40 years now, and all these other modalities. And one day I woke up and I went, I'm not learning this. I'm remembering it.
Yes.
I have known it all before. And I believe that many of us in this situation now, we are the same. We have known it, and it's time to reach out and connect with each other because we are becoming more and more powerful together. And more
Absolutely.
and more people are becoming aware that things are not quite right and there's something else. And as that happens, there's like this tsunami of people going, what's going on in the matrix? They're waking up to as the
Yeah.
matrix is the thing that I'm living in, and it's not real. And
Yeah.
we have to be ready to catch them and make it okay for them. And that could take us off into a whole other subject, but
Yeah,
I
it's
I, I
very
do believe
interesting.
that's going on.
I know that people are paying attention to the political climate, but when you start looking at the world from the vantage point that we're looking at it, is the energy and how things are shifting. And the, I'll say it, the patriarchy is falling, and we're here, and there's so many women doing this. I mean, sometimes I feel like, how can we possibly, we're in competition, we're not in competition, we're in synergy, helping each other to move forward. So when you say, like, if you're listening to us right now and you're thinking, but they do the same thing, why would she interview somebody who's doing what she's doing? It has nothing to do with competition. There are billions of people on the planet that need what we're doing to help them transform their lives so they're ready for what this next iteration of society and culture and technology is. And the way I see it, the technology has gotten to a level where it's unwieldy, and people can't, I mean, AI is coming in, it's huge. People don't understand how big this is. I mean, the internet was big. This is like that. And what people don't know is that they're going to get swept along with it unless they can stand and observe it and get a handle on it. And that means themselves. That means it
Yeah,
starts with the individual. So we have to up level our spiritual intelligence, our spiritual quotient, and allow ourselves to have the experience of transformation. And like I said, there are thousands of women doing this work. And Dalai
yeah,
Lama said Western women are going to save the world. So better get busy.
absolutely. Yeah, there's 7, 8 billion people out there, and there's
And
thousands of us, but how many thousands? Thousands in a sea of billions, and we're
yes,
scratching the surface, really. But I think
yep,
that it comes through these kinds of connections and communications that the light, if you like, the power is getting stronger, and that we can all help and support each other, and that is the fundamental difference between us and the patriarchy. Um,
yep.
that we will collaborate,
Well, we know
whereas
how
they
to
have to
birth a
fight.
baby. We know
Yeah.
how to birth a baby, and this baby needs birthing. This baby needs to get out there in the world. I mean, I just watched Nova last night on PBS about the permafrost that's thawing and releasing methane gas into the greenhouse gases at tons per day. And we don't think there's transformation needed on this planet. Oh, hell yeah, there is.
Oh, let's not get on to cutting down the rainforest, the the flooding of the rivers in China, the building
The drought we're
in place.
having here, I mean, we haven't had the rivers flowing like they should in probably, I'm probably going to make a very conservative estimate at 5 to 10 years. We've been in a drought situation in the middle of the United States here. So the cataclysmic thunderstorms that go from Texas to Maine, I mean, it's just crazy how the planet is changing, and we have to be able to come up to that challenge as well, and change with it, because it is us and we are it.
Absolutely. And what worries me though is they're actually, the solution's over here and everybody's looking that way.
Yeah,
That they're not actually taking responsibility for the actions that are going on, or they would not be cutting down all these trees. They would not
right.
be doing that,
Well, I think
because
that people don't want to look at them. They don't want to look within, because that's so scary. I mean, here's the thing. When we're working on this emotional stuff that you and I both work on, people say, oh, it's going to overwhelm me. I won't be able to return from this terrible experience that I had if I'm talking about it or healing it. And I keep telling people, your molecules are not going to fly apart. The volcano inside you is not going to melt you into a puddle. You're going to be okay. But they need that reassurance, because for so many generations, they've been told, you don't have any power. You can't do it. You have only this amount of time to live. You're going to need a hip replacement. I just had a patient here. You're going to need a hip replacement in 6 months. I'm like, what happened to first do no harm? When you tell
yeah.
somebody something like that, that's harmful. You
Uh-huh.
have to give them something that they can do, or a different way of looking at it. But they're not trained to do that.
No,
In general, if you go to a medical doctor, they're a doctor of medicine, they're going to give you medicine. So expect that. But when you go to somebody that does what we do, what Elizabeth does, what she's been doing for years and years, expect to get healing. Expect it, and then you'll have it, because you're there ready for it. It's
it's
beautiful.
healing
Hold
on
your
a
book up
whole
again, Elizabeth.
healing on a whole level. The practical and the slightly, the more spiritual and the more like woo woo, if you like, for want of a better term, that it working on so many different levels,
Absolutely.
so that people are not scared. And the fundamental message is, you can't change anything if you don't start with you, if you don't shift your state, if you don't start changing those neural pathways, change the narrative of I am.
Yep.
It's Tony Robbins who says, anything you say I am in front of, you are owning. And how many times do we say, or do you say, do you hear people saying, oh, I'm sick, I'm this, I'm broke, and you own it. And the more you tell it,
Yep.
the more it becomes your truth. And that neural pathway in your head gets ingrained. So it becomes the truth,
Yeah.
even if it didn't start off like that. Now,
Yeah,
you
it
know that,
becomes the
I know that.
pathway. Yeah. If with the way I explain it to people is, when you have something that happens and it has very intense emotion, or it happens chronically over and over again, that pathway gets made, and now it becomes subconscious. You don't have to think about it. It's already happening in your body. Just like how you don't know what your liver's doing right now, but it has 300 um, different things that it does, different functions, and you are not thought in charge of any of that. What's in charge of that is your subconscious, and what's in charge of your subconscious is how you feel. So that's why I work with feelings a lot.
Yeah.
It makes such a difference. Yeah, and when you said that, I'm looking over here at my 5 top passions that have I am in front of them. And the number one is, I am fully in presence with source. And isn't that just the best place to be?
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, because you own it. It's like the man
yeah,
is right. Yeah. When you say I am, you own it, it becomes you.
yeah,
And if you're owning something that is actually not um what you really want, then you have to think about what you're telling yourself and change it. Otherwise, nothing's going to change.
That's right. And you can only change yourself. You can't change anybody
Mm.
else. So don't even try. I mean, have you ever pushed a
Yeah.
rope? Not doesn't work. So I just want to remind people the book is totally real, not partially real, totally real. And we're so excited. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for your time today. It's been just a pleasure talking with you. And we'll get together again soon, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you. It's been a pleasure being here.